We got a good one today. Had a subscriber ask me a question about the FCA build quality. It sounds like he's in the market to like maybe buy a Challenger. He's kind of weighing his options between maybe Mustang and Camaro. And he noted that he does live in the same climate region as I do. So he asked a question, and I'll give a shout out to, his name is Andy Sen. Boop. Says, what's up with the FCA build quality and steel used in the Challenger? Is it poor quality compared to the Camaro? Peace. I responded back in a word yes, but it's not poor. It's just lower grade. And the only thing, I kind of want to dissect this down and kind of like go through what rust is, how it forms, and, you know, kind of the process of auto manufacturing, what they do for corrosion protection, and kind of give a comparison between the big three. So I'm going to go ahead and let's dive into this. So I know it's not everybody's favorite form of, go-to reliability source of information, but everything that I read, I agree with, I know, and I can find everything that I need to know on one page. So let's go. I went to How Rust Forms on Wikipedia, and it says, rust is a general name for a complex oxides and hydroxides of iron. And it occurs when when iron or some alloys that contain iron are exposed to oxygen moisture for long periods of time. That's important, and I'll explain why later. It says, over time, the oxygen combines with the metal, forming new compounds collectively called rust. And although rust may be generally termed as oxidation, I do agree with that. That is much more general than describes in the vast number process involving the, here it is, loss of electrons or increased oxidation state as part of a reaction. Okay, so the best known reaction involve oxygen, hence the name oxidation. It says, here's another also important part, but only iron or alloys that contain iron can rust. That's the red rust that we're all used to seeing, and then which we initially think of. I know that the iron ore element is just, it's cheap, and it's used in pretty much everything. Can be forged, tempered to be harder, and it has a vast range. I know soft metals have awesome like tear strength. You know, if it's wounded or whatever, it still has a lot of rigidity holding it together, and it can hold strength even though it's wounded or the structural integrity is not 100%. And it says, however, other metals can corrode in similar ways. I know aluminum is a pretty weird one. It has a white rust, sometimes green. Titanium is also a weird one. That's a real strange one. And just the fact of like 100% raw titanium will actually rust when it comes into contact with oxygen. But like I said, you can follow this down a rabbit hole, and it will lead you to a whole new realm. This is kind of the ending point where I gave up. I kind of understand how rust works, how it forms, what it does, what causes it, and that's really all we need to know. And it is an electrical process that converts the iron ore into, it's losing its electrons. And it's kind of like if you spill water on a countertop, it's going to evaporate. And that process is called hydrogen bonding. You got your H2O, so it's, you got your hydrogen and your oxygen, and the hydrogen is what's getting pulled out into the air, and that's causing the evaporative loss. And anything suspended in the water is what gets left behind. So if you have like sticky, like soda or whatever, that's kind of how that works. So it's the same thing with rust. It's no different. So let's keep going. It says the oxidation of iron when iron is in contact with water or oxygen, it rusts. If salt is present, for example, seawater or salt spray, it tends to rust more quickly as a result of electrochemical reactions. Salt and everything, it's think of it as in your body as more like it's electrolyte. So therefore it has some conductivity to it. And therefore it's going to speed up the process. I know if you live in, like here in the Midwest, northern part where it snows a bunch, they spray this brine on the road, and unibody cars, anything newer, it will cause accelerated corrosion to form or flash rust on any kind of exposed metal or anything really high content in that iron ore. Other degrading solution are sulfur dioxide in water. There we go. And carbon dioxide in water. Under these corrosive conditions, iron hydroxide species is formed, and that's the bad stuff. Iron hydroxides do not adhere to the bulk metal, not iron, as they form and flake off from the surface. Boom. That's what causes that scaling. I know you've seen like on older cars and everything where like, you hit like a real bad bump and a piece will fall off. There you go. Fresh iron is exposed and the corrosion process continues until either all of the iron is consumed or all of the oxygen, water, carbon dioxide, and sulfur dioxide in the system are removed or consumed. Or pretty much you can let it time out by sealing it off, but I mean it's still going to continue to chew away at the iron until it's all gone. Well, removed or consumed. So until it keeps going, until it can't go any further. Like I said, with the just the metals and the FCA products that I've seen, and this is all form of like there's different grades of steel, and there's different formulas. So when they're at the plant making all this stuff and they melt all these metals down to make X, Y, Z, there's formulas where they throw a lot of carbon, or there's low carbon steel, or there's mild steel, or there's just, different grades of structural. It depends on what you're trying to make or what it's going to be used for. So there's different thresholds, I know. And if you recycle metal, you kind of have to bring it up to that molten state, get a batch out, sample it, make sure it hits the mark as far as thresholds. But, there's different grades to that same classification of steel. Oops, I didn't mean to bump the mic there. You can kind of do like the bare minimum and get away with it. And, it's still, mild steel or whatever. But that's kind of what I am assuming that they're doing. And there's no way to tell. I have checked. I've done my due diligence as far as trying to see what the actual composition of the metal is, but the easiest way to tell is time. And what time has shown us is they rust bad and they rust fast. So the FCA products are rusting at a higher rate. It's not bad, and I'm not saying it's a bad car. I'm not being slanderous in any way, but I'm saying it's something people need to be aware about. If you're going to buy a Challenger and it's a good car, it's a good highway car, especially as long a wheelbase as it has, just be aware that you're on borrowed time. And I know I'm going to do a Google search here. Just Google images. Dodge Chow, if I can spell it right. Rust. So I'm going to go to images. Rust rot right there. I have no idea why people wrap their car trying to make it look rusty and crappy. And I mean, me being an ex-painter and trying to make everything as nice as possible, that's just one of the things that I don't understand. So if we go to where it says rust rot, this is kind of what I'm seeing most common with the Challenger And I looked at this a lot yesterday, and pretty much this forum is claiming that it is pretty much just that foam. I believe that's going to be called an anti-flutter foam. And, you know, I guess what you should back up and start with is the exterior of a car, the skin, it holds absolutely no structural integrity to the car at all. Maybe the rocker panels do, but as far as like the fender, the hood, it doesn't help. It doesn't. There is zero structural rigidity, reliance on those body panels at all. So they tend to make them out of like ultra thin steel, so 20 gauge, sometimes 22 gauge. So, you know, you can see in between the structure there's going to be a big gap. So in order to take away that flutter, that flex that panel's going to see under higher speed once the wind starts pushing in on it, they just put that foam in there, and it looks like that water has wicked up and retained that that foam has wicked up and retained that water, and it sits there and just eats away at the steel. But that's not all of it that I think is happening here. And pretty much what this looks like over my years of experience is that it's a draining. It looks like that would be a draining as the car, you know, like rain or whatever washes over a car. And you know how your car gets dirty over time? Well, that dirt is going to be suspended in that water, and it gets carried down here. And wherever the water, or they have drain tubes or drain passages in every car, wherever it leads to, and it looks like it's got to be down here, leading out in front of the dog leg. Somewhere, I don't see it. There's too much foam here, but that builds up over time, and that dirt suspended in that water, and you'll know by, like, go out in the summer, you know, throughout the dry months and do a baseball slide in the yard. That dirt gets hard over time, or once it dries out, and it's abrasive. So all those vibrations, you know, you got the vibrations from the tires running over just the surface of the concrete. There's so many factors that lead into this, but the vibrations will sit there and just eat away at that primer. And that primer is the only thing protecting that bare metal. And if that metal is of a lower grade, or, you know, high content iron or whatever, it's going to rust, and it's going to rust fast. Savage Geese, I have one pulled up here, and they did a review. I'm going to use just a small clip of their video showing the undercarriage of this Dodge Demon. And keep in mind, guys, that this is a $85,000 car. $85,000. Okay, so you can see everything here. All this, it's got a nice galvanized coating on it. So like the oil pan, that I know these oil pans are really thin, and looks like this is all cast aluminum. So let's keep going here. You can see, oh my God. If you look right here, look at that. Look. $85,000. So if we keep going, and it gets worse, man. I just, you can see a little bit right there. I mean, look at all where this bare steel is. And once this is flash rust at this point, and I am willing to bet you this car has less than 100 miles on it. I know that this was a giveaway card, but I am willing to bet that this car has less than 100 miles on it. Definitely less than 500. This is absolute insanity. And this is right off the showroom floor. This is brand new. Brand new. So, I mean, look at all these, the tie rod. Look at the, you know, the spindle. Even, I can't tell, even a little bit on these ball joints. But I mean, it goes to, the control arm. I can't tell. A little bit here on the sway bar. These nuts and bolts are, the ones that have like a galvanized coating on them. But this rust is going to creep under that paint. And it's done. It's on borrowed time. So you can keep going here. Boom. The other side is no better. And I can only imagine. Look at this. Look in this bushing where this is, the pressed in to the lower control arm. Here's a little bit on the lower control arm. If this creeps over to the subframe, I'm not seeing any. Here's a little bit on the spindle. Here's a little bit on the knuckle. Here's more on the control arm. Man, I'm telling it's a mess. Here's a little bit on the sway bar. Oh my God. That's less than 100 miles. And the one thing is I'm not seeing any on the frame, and the frame being, anything red or orange. It's just basically overspray at that point. But and that's going to be due to because EDP, and back in I don't know the year for sure, but the mid to late 80s, EDP, and it stands for electronically deposited primer. And it's just like powder coating, and I'll put a picture up here of the whole process. It's a 2-step wash system. Basically, the car body sits on a jig with the doors kind of pried open or whatever position that they want to, keep them at. And it's going to dunk the car through a acid wash bath, and it's going to do 2 things. It's going to, remove the contaminants, and it's going to also, like I said, it's going to have an acid wash that's going to etch into the metal, leaving kind of like a phosphorus, or it's going to leave like a prep coat, and it's going to be ready for the primer, something the primer can adhere to. So like I said, they're going to do, the car's going to be positively charged and the liquid will be negatively charged, or vice versa. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause not only the liquid is going to be able to flow into all the nooks and crannies and cover, the metal that it needs to cover in order to seal it up, but also that charge, polar opposite charge that they're going to put on, the fluid is going to cause it to wick into any mated surfaces where it's like stacked up. It's going to flow and wick up as much as possible, and if it can't get into those nooks and crannies, it's going to seal it off, and it's going to cause it's going to encapsulate that metal, and it's going to prevent it from rusting. So if that, I know BSAF is the big player, kind of like Goodyear is the big player for OE tires. As long as that EDP hangs in there, I think that the body of the car is going to hold in there. But look at these suspension components, and this is going to be dead giveaway, dead proof that this is brand new. $85,000. And it's flash rust at this point, but it's gonna eat away until everything's gone. So $85,000 for a brand new car with rusty suspension components, and it kind of only tells you what the metal of the rest of the car is made of, or their quality standards. So not trying to slam the Challenger, I'm just saying it's right here in front of your eyes. I wouldn't be afraid to buy a Challenger. I'm just saying, I would, kind of set yourself up to a point where you wouldn't financially get hurt. So maybe something to where you would, break even maybe within like 3 years. I suppose you could, if you wanted to, you could take the car apart and recoat, sandblast, or repaint all these pieces, and they'll last. But man, do you want to do? I wouldn't want to do that. Proof's in the pudding. And like I said, I've done my due diligence and I've looked around and I cannot find where any good information as far as the composition of the metal and everything. So it is what it is, and you kind of just have to see it for yourself. Like I said, I wouldn't steer clear of it. It's basically we're getting what we're getting because of the price point of what the cars are at, and it's a hell of a lot of car for the money. So I wouldn't be afraid to buy a Challenger. I've been kind of eyeballing the red eye, to be honest with you, but like I said, 116-inch wheelbase car. It'll be a definitely good daily driver. I just kind of thought the Camaro fit a little bit better for me. It's kind of proven to hold up a little bit better over time, but I hope that this answered your question. I also hope that you guys are having a good day. And if there's any other questions that I can help you out with or you have, definitely hit me up in the comment section. Thank you very much. Don't forget to give this thing a big thumbs up. Do it. And we'll see you guys on the next one later.